So while discussing octet rule, we have already discussed that the octet electronic configuration can be gained by the atoms by two ways. One is transfer of electrons from one atom to other, that we call it as electrovalency, and the bond thus formed is said to be ionic bond. Another way to get octet electronic configuration is mutual sharing of electrons by two bonded atoms, that we called it as covalency, and the bond thus formed is said to be a covalent bond. The theory that was proposed by Kozal and Lewis was unable to explain so many factors regarding the covalent bond. Those factors are: it cannot explain the difference in the bond dissociation energies of different covalent bonds, and it cannot explain the shape of the molecules if more than two atoms are involved in a covalent bond to form a molecule, and cannot explain the difference in the bond length of two different atoms when they are sharing the same pair of electrons. So all these things cannot explained by Kozal-Lewis theory. Then Heitler and London was proposed this valency bond theory. Later it was developed by Pauling and Slater. So according to this valency bond theory, the orbitals and electrons which are present in the valency shell of an atom are only responsible for the formation of a covalent bond. The electrons which are present in the valency shell or last energy level of an atom are only responsible for bond formation. Other than valency electrons, all the remaining electrons are called as core electrons. These core electrons will not have any role in the formation of a covalent bond. For example, if we take electronic configuration of chlorine, which atomic number is 17, here electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. So this last energy level is said to be valency shell, and these electrons are said to be core electrons. So these core electrons are not having any role in bond formation. Only valency electrons are responsible for bond formation. Any bond that can be present in a molecule is because of these valency electrons. Now in the valency shell also, only half-filled electrons present as half-filled atomic orbitals. For example, if you take this here, the valence electronic configuration is 3s2, 3p5. If we observe here in 3s orbital, 2 electrons are there. In 3p orbital, we have 5 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here, one p orbital is only half filled. All the remaining orbitals are fulfilled with 2 electrons each. Even in the valency shell also, this orbital is responsible for the bond formation. So, here are the points that you have to remember. In the formation of a covalent bond, only electrons which are present in the last energy level are said to be valency electrons. All the remaining electrons which are present as other than valency electrons are said to be core electrons. These core electrons are not having any role in the bond formation. Only valency electrons have participated are in a position to take part into the bonding. even in the valency electrons, those electrons which are half filled or unpaired, those electrons only can actually take part into bonding. While two atoms are involved into the covalent bond, the half-filled atomic orbital of one atom, now we are discussing about the formation of Cl2 molecule. In the formation of Cl2 molecule, two chlorine atoms are involved. This is one chlorine atom and this is another chlorine atom. In the valency shell of chlorine, we have 3 p orbitals. 2 orbitals are fully filled by electrons, so they are not involved into the bonding. Only half-filled p orbital is involved in the bonding. Now, the half-filled p orbital of one chlorine atom will overlap with half-filled orbital of another chlorine atom, and by mutual sharing a pair of electrons, they form a covalent bond. After sharing, what happens? The electron cloud, here it was decreased, and here in between the nucleus, the electron cloud will increase. So that after formation of the bond, if this is one chlorine atom and this is another chlorine atom, the electron cloud outside these chlorine atoms will decrease, and in between the chlorine atoms it will increase. So this electron cloud is concentrated in between the nuclei of two bonded atoms. Here in this case, both atoms belong to same element, so electronegativities are same. That's why this bond is said to be a non-polar covalent bond. Non-polar covalent bond. So here remember, the formation of covalent bond, the half-filled atomic orbitals will overlap with each other. The strength of the bond will depend upon the extent of overlapping. If the overlapping is less, the bond is weak. If overlapping is more, the bond is strong. Such that this theory was able to explain the difference in the bond energies of different covalent bonds. If overlapping of atomic orbitals takes place in a large extent, that covalent bond is very strong covalent bond. Extent of overlapping is less, that covalent bond is said to be a weak covalent bond. So here we have Cl2 molecule. In Cl2 molecule, two chlorine atoms are bonded. So during the formation of a covalent bond, half-filled atomic orbitals will overlap with each other. The strength of the bond will depend upon its extent of overlapping. If extent of overlapping is more, the bond is said to be strong. If extent of overlapping is less, the bond is said to be weak. Next, another point, important point to be noted is that bond will be formed in the same direction in which the orbitals are overlapping. The bond is formed in the same direction in which the two orbitals are overlapping. That means the overlapping side will decide the direction of the bond. Next, if bond is formed between two elements, atoms of same element, as their electronegativity is same, bonding pair of electron will present exactly at the center of the two nuclei. That bond is said to be a non-polar covalent bond. For example, here in the Cl2 molecule, we will find non-polar covalent bond. In the case of H2 molecule also, you will have same situation. In H2 molecule, two hydrogen atoms are bonded together to form H2 molecule. Hydrogen electronic configuration is 1s1. Half-filled 1s orbital is present on each hydrogen. So, half-filled atomic orbital of hydrogen overlaps with half-filled atomic orbital of another hydrogen, so that they overlap and mutually share their bonding pair. So that the covalent bond is formed between these two atoms, and this is bond is also a polar covalent bond. Here also the same thing. Electron cloud is more in between the nuclei than outside the nucleus. Next, formation of HCl molecule. In HCl molecule, a covalent bond is formed between 1s hydrogen atom and 3p, half-filled 3p orbital of chlorine. So, half-filled 1s orbital of hydrogen overlap with half-filled p orbital of chlorine, and by mutually sharing a pair of electrons present in it to form H-Cl covalent bond. Here, after formation of the bond, here the electronegativity of Cl is more than hydrogen. So here in this case, if this is the nuclei of two bonded atoms, electron cloud will distribute like this. This means electron cloud is more prominent to Cl side than hydrogen side. Because of that, a partial negative charge will exist on chlorine side and partial positive charge will exist on hydrogen side. This type of covalent bond is said to be polar covalent bond. Polar covalent bond. Here that means full transfer of electron is not takes place. To certain extent, the electron pair is closer to one of the bonded atoms than the other. This type of polar covalent bonds are not 100% covalent in nature. They have certain percentage of ionic characters. These polar covalent bonds will have certain percentage of ionic characters. So this is the formation of Cl2, H2 and HCl molecules according to valency bond theory. In valency bond theory, only valency electrons, that is electrons present in the last energy level, can only take part into the bond formation. Even in the valency shell also, only orbitals which are half-filled were actually involved in the bonding. So in the formation of a covalent bond, half-filled atomic orbital of one atom will overlap with half-filled atomic orbital of another atom, and by mutual sharing a pair of electrons, both the atoms will get octet electronic configuration. Here in the case of Cl2, both atoms, when they are in isolated state, have lack of one electron than argon, because argon has 8 electrons in its valency shell, whereas chlorine has only 7. While they are overlapping and mutually sharing these unpaired electrons, both the bonded atoms will get the octet argon configuration. That's why we are claiming that the bond is according to octet rule. So, the half-filled atomic orbitals will overlap with each other and mutually share their unpaired electrons. Now, the bond will be formed in the direction in which the orbitals are overlapping. The bond direction is in the direction of overlapping of orbitals. The strength of the bond will depend upon the extent of overlapping. If overlapping is less, bond is weak. If overlapping is more, bond is strong. So, strength of the bond will depend upon its extent of overlapping. So, because of that, here we are forming covalent bond. Here we have 3 molecules we discussed here. One is Cl2, other one is H2, and other one is HCl. In both Cl2 and H2, covalent bond is formed between the atoms belonging to same elements. The two bonded atoms belong to same element. So, the electronegativities of two bonded atoms in this case, in this Cl2 and H2 case, is same. And electron pair is exactly at the center or equal distance to the nuclei of the two bonded atoms. Such covalent bond is said to be a non-polar covalent bond. But if we observe the bond that was formed between hydrogen and chlorine in HCl, as chlorine electronegativity is more than hydrogen, the bonding pair of electron is much closer to chlorine than hydrogen. Because of that, a partial negative charge will exist on chlorine, whereas partial positive charge will exist on hydrogen. That type of covalent bond is said to be a polar covalent bond. So, basing on the difference in the electronegativity, covalent bond is of two types. One is polar covalent bond and other one is non-polar covalent bond. There is another way of classification. There are two types of covalent bonds. They are sigma bond and pi bond. This classification is based on the direction of overlapping. That means on which direction the orbitals are overlap with each other. For example, if you take s orbital, this s orbital is spherical in shape and p orbital is dumbbell in shape. So here this is the nucleus, position of nucleus, and here this is the position of nucleus. So any line that divide the orbital into two equal parts and which goes through its axis or through its nucleus is said to be axis. So for s orbital, any line which crosses or which passes through this nucleus or center point can divide the orbital in two equal parts. But in the p orbital case, this is the only line that can divide the orbital into two equal parts which goes through nucleus or center. Now, s orbital, when it is overlapping in any direction, it is along its axis. But it is not so in the case of p orbital. If p orbital, one of the p orbital overlap with another p orbital belonging to another atom, then this is the axis of this p orbital and this will be the axis of another p orbital. That means these two p orbitals overlap with each other along their axis. When two orbitals overlap along their axis, their overlapping is a large extent, and by sharing they form a strong covalent bond. Such covalent bond is said to be a sigma bond. Sigma, we'll define or we denoted sigma like this, sigma bond or sigma covalent bond. But in some cases, p orbitals are forced to overlap like this. Now this is the axis for this p orbital and this will be the axis with this p orbital. Here also they overlapped with each other. But their overlapping direction is parallel to their axis. This line is parallel to this line. This axis is parallel to this axis. Here the overlapping is along axis. Here the overlapping is parallel to their axis. If two half-filled atomic orbitals overlap parallel to their axis and mutually share their unpaired electrons, such type of bond is said to be a pi bond. Such type of bond is said to be a pi bond. Remember, pi bond is a secondary bond. It means in between two atoms, after formation of a sigma bond, as a second bond or third bond, these pi bonds can be formed. No pi bonds can be formed initially in between two atoms. Pi bond is formed only after there is a sigma bond in between those two atoms. As a second bond or a third bond, these pi bonds will be formed. In pi bond, extent of overlapping is very less. So, it is a weak bond when compared to sigma bond. In sigma bond, the electron cloud is cylindrically distributed along the internuclear axis. If it is the internuclear axis, this is the nucleus and this is the nucleus. The imaginary line that joins the two nuclei is said to be internuclear axis. So, if electrons are distributed, this is one electron, so nucleus of one atom, and this is the nucleus of another atom. An imaginary line that joins nuclei of two bonded atoms is said to be internuclear distance. So here, along internuclear axis, this electron cloud cylindrically distributed along the internuclear axis. Whereas in pi bond, the electron pair will distributed as two bonds, one on the top and other on the bottom. This is pi electron cloud and this is sigma electron cloud. In sigma bond, extent of overlapping is maximum, so it is a strong bond. Here pi bond, extent of overlapping is less, so it is a weak bond. In sigma bond, electron cloud will distribute along the internuclear axis cylindrically and symmetrically, whereas here the electron cloud is appear as two bands on either side of the internuclear axis. Now, this sigma bond allows the free rotation of groups attached to it, whereas pi bond restricts the free rotation of bonds. These are the differences between sigma bond and pi bond. Let us observe some molecules which are having these bonds. Oxygen molecule. Oxygen atomic number is 8. Its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So this is the valency shell of oxygen, in which we will have 6 electrons. So 6 electrons in oxygen is distributed like this, 2 electrons in 2s orbital and 4 electrons in p orbital, like this. That means in oxygen we have 2 half-filled p orbitals, and in its valency shell you have 2 pairs of electrons. Now in the formation of O2 molecule, 2 oxygen atoms are found to be bonded with a double bond. 2 oxygen atoms are bonded with a double bond. Now we are going to discuss about how that double bond is formed in O2 molecule. So in the valency shell of fluorine, oxygen, we have 2 p orbitals. Of course, 3 p orbitals are there. Third p orbital is perpendicular to this plane and it is completely filled. According to valency bond theory, those orbitals which are filled with 2 electrons does not actually involved in the bonding. Now this is the position of one oxygen atom. You will have another oxygen atom with same situation. 2 p orbitals with perpendicular to each other. Now the half-filled p orbital of this oxygen atom overlaps with half-filled p orbital of another oxygen atom, and by mutual sharing of unpaired electrons, a sigma bond is formed between 2 oxygen atoms. Now here in this oxygen, we have another half-filled p orbital. And these two p orbitals are parallel to each other. They are parallel to each other. Now these two p orbitals overlap, laterally overlaps to form, because they cannot overlap along their axis, because already these p orbitals are fixed. Now there is no other way for these two orbitals other than to overlap in their lateral portions. Because of that, they form a pi bond. So here in the O2 molecule, this is the nucleus of one oxygen and this is the nucleus of another oxygen. First one sigma bond is formed like this. This is sigma bond. After that, a pi bond will also be formed between these two nuclei of these two bonded atoms. This pi electron cloud will arrange as two bands on both sides of the internuclear axis. So this is known as O2 double bond in O2 molecule. These two bands together forms one bond. And this is one bond. So in between oxygen and oxygen, we have two bonds. One bond is sigma bond and other one is a pi bond. One bond is sigma bond and other one is a pi bond. This is the position of O2 molecule. This is the way how O2 molecule is formed. In O2 molecule, two oxygen atoms are bonded with a double bond. The double bond formation can be explained like this. Each oxygen atom's electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. 2s2, 2p4 is the valency shell. Second energy level is its valency shell. In valency shell, two pairs of electrons are there and two half-filled p orbitals are there. Now, according to valency bond theory, these half-filled p orbitals will actually involved in the bonding. So, half-filled p orbital of one oxygen atom overlaps with half-filled p orbital of another oxygen atom to form a sigma bond between oxygen and oxygen. After formation of the sigma bond, there are two p orbitals which are perpendicular to this plane. These two p orbitals laterally overlap and by mutual sharing of a lone pairs that were lone electrons that were present in it to form another covalent bond between two oxygen atoms. That covalent bond is called as pi bond. So in between two oxygen atoms, we have one sigma bond and one pi bond. N2 molecule. In N2 molecule, two nitrogen atoms are bonded with a triple bond. In this triple bond, one bond is sigma bond and other two bonds are pi bonds. In any atom, when multiple bonds are present, in that multiple bonds, first bond is sigma bond. Whatever the remaining bonds, whether they are 2 or 3, they are pi bonds only. In between two atoms, there is a possibility to form only one pi bond. All the rest of the bonds, whatever they are present, they are pi bonds. Now here in N2 molecule, triple bond means one is sigma bond and the other two are the pi bonds. So here nitrogen's atomic number is 7. So its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. So in the valency shell of nitrogen, we have 2 electrons in 2s orbital and 3 electrons in 2p orbital. So the 3 half-filled p orbitals are perpendicular to each other with 90 degrees bond angle. 2 orbitals like this and the third orbital will be like this. Now I am going to write it like this. Actually it is perpendicular to this. So here each p orbital is perpendicular to each other and half-filled with 1 electron each. In the second nitrogen also, we have the same situation. One half-filled p orbital perpendicular to this, there are 2 more half-filled p orbitals. Now in the formation of N2 molecule, one half-filled p orbital of one nitrogen atom overlaps with half-filled p orbital of another nitrogen, and by mutual sharing of a pair of electrons, a sigma bond is formed between two nitrogen atoms. Now here in this nitrogen atom, we have one p orbital, here we have another p orbital. These two are parallel to each other and they are opposite spin electrons, so there is a possibility to form a pi bond between these two p orbitals. So this is second bond. Another p orbital is also there, and these two p orbitals are also half filled and they are parallel to each other. Now there will be another bond between these two p orbitals. So here in N2 molecule, there is one sigma bond between nitrogen and two pi bonds. This is the formation of N2 molecule. Hydrogen bond. This hydrogen bond belongs to the category of van der Waals forces of attraction because it's not a chemical bond. Actually, here it has certain ionic characters because in hydrogen bond, the force of attractions are electrostatic force of attractions. Only hydrogen atom can form this type of bond. That's why this bond is known as hydrogen bond. Except hydrogen atom, no other atom are able to form this type of bonds. Exclusively hydrogen. And hydrogen also, when it was bonded with a covalent bond with a high electronegative and small size atoms like oxygen, fluorine and nitrogen. That is, the molecules which are having a bond with hydrogen, where hydrogen is bonded with atoms of small size and high electronegative. Small size and high electronegative elements, they are oxygen, fluorine and nitrogen. These are the three elements where the compounds where hydrogen is bonded with any one of these elements. In such molecules, we can observe hydrogen bond. That's why this bond is specially called as hydrogen bond. When hydrogen is bonded with high electronegative and small size atoms like oxygen, hydrogen and fluorine. Here we have a molecule in which hydrogen is bonded with oxygen. Herein, this is a polar covalent bond where hydrogen will have partial positive charge and it will have partial negative charge. Now, the hydrogen which is having a partial positively charged hydrogen, when it is in contact or nearer to a partially negatively charged atom, other than it was bonded with a covalent bond. In such cases, a weak electrostatic force of attraction will arise between hydrogen and oxygen of other molecule. This type of bond is known as hydrogen bond. And in turn, this hydrogen will form another bond with another oxygen atom of another H2O molecule. And this hydrogen will form hydrogen bond with another So by that way, each H2O molecule at an average they form 2 hydrogen bonds with adjacent H2O molecules. This type of bond is formed between two different molecules. Such hydrogen bond is said to be intermolecular hydrogen bond. Intermolecular hydrogen bond. If hydrogen bond is formed between two different molecules, such hydrogen bond is said to be intermolecular hydrogen bond. There is another type of hydrogen bond which is formed in between the two groups of a same molecule. Such hydrogen bond is said to be intramolecular hydrogen bond. Intramolecular hydrogen bond. For example, salicylaldehyde. Now we have a partial positively charged hydrogen which is bonded to oxygen, another partial negatively charged oxygen belonging to the same molecule. This is one group and this is another group. Now here a weak electrostatic force of attraction is present between the hydrogen of OH group and oxygen of CHO group. This type of hydrogen bond is said to be intramolecular hydrogen bond. Intramolecular hydrogen bond. We have one compound known as nitrophenol. We have two types of nitrophenols. This means this is phenol group. If phenol group is present in ortho position, you will have NO2 group here and OH group here. Here you will have intramolecular hydrogen bond. There is another nitrophenol where you will have nitro group at para position. Nitro group is present in the para position. Now here oxygen, this oxygen and hydrogen are far away from each other. In such cases, this type of intramolecular hydrogen bond is not possible. That's why in para-nitrophenol, we can observe the formation of intermolecular hydrogen bond. Intermolecular hydrogen. Because of this intermolecular hydrogen bond, the boiling points of para-nitrophenol is more than the boiling point of orthonitrophenol. In orthonitrophenol, intramolecular hydrogen bond is there. So there will be no bonds between molecule and other molecule. When the bonds are present in molecule into other molecule, intermolecular hydrogen bonds are there. In such cases, their boiling and melting points are very high. Particularly here, the boiling point of para-nitrophenol is greater than orthonitrophenol because of that intermolecular hydrogen bond. In the same case, in H2O also, both H2O and H2S belongs to hydrides of same oxygen sulfur family. H2S is obtained in gaseous state, whereas H2O is obtained in liquid state because there is an intermolecular hydrogen bond in H2O, where it is absent in H2S. Another interesting question they may ask frequently in the examinations, both in board and competitive examinations. We can find intermolecular hydrogen bonds in hydrogen fluoride. So in HF molecule, this is one HF molecule, this is another HF molecule, this is some other HF molecule, like that. So here we will have partial negative charge, here you will have partial positive charge, partial negative, partial positive, partial negative, partial positive, partial negative, and so on. So now the partial negatively charged fluorine will attract with partially positively charged hydrogen such that a strong hydrogen bond is present in HF also. These hydrogen bonds are stronger than the hydrogen bonds that were present in H2O. But H2O boiling point is 100, whereas the HF boiling point is less than 20 degrees. It is only 19.8 degrees centigrade. This is an interesting question. Because in the case of H2O and H2S, we claimed that the boiling point of H2O is more because of the intermolecular hydrogen bond. Here in HF, we have more stronger intermolecular hydrogen bonds, but still its boiling point is 19.8. Why? Here in the case of HF, no doubt the hydrogen bonds are stronger than H2O, but here in H2O, hydrogen bonds exist only when it is in liquid state. In vapor state, in H2O molecules, there is no hydrogen bonds. Whereas in the case of HF, hydrogen bonds are present in vapor state of HF also. So HF has hydrogen bonds in vapor state as well as in liquid state. So in case of HF, there is no need of breaking all hydrogen bonds that were present in the given amount of HF. Breaking a few hydrogen bonds is sufficient enough to convert into vapor state, because still in vapor state, hydrogen bonds are in existence. So the bonds to be broken to convert into vapor is less in HF when compared to H2O. That's why its boiling point is very less, that is 19.8. These are the three questions. One is why orthonitrophenol will have less boiling point than paranitrophenol. Another question is H2O boiling point is 100 degrees centigrade, whereas the same group hydride H2S is in gaseous state. Why? Next, third type of question, this one. Both HF and H2O are having hydrogen bonds, but boiling point of H2O is 100 degrees centigrade, whereas the boiling point of HF is only 19.8. Give reason. H2O can form hydrogen bonds only in liquid state. In vapor state, it cannot form hydrogen bonds. So to convert H2O into vapor, we have to break each and every hydrogen bond that was present in H2O. Another important point is, at an average, H2O molecule can form 2 hydrogen bonds, whereas HF can form only 1 hydrogen bond. So the number of hydrogen bonds to be broke or to be break to convert into vapor is very less when compared to H2O. That's why its boiling point is less. And another important question is, why acetic acid exists as a dimer? In acetic acid formula is CH3COOH. Its structure will be like this, COOH. Now another H2O molecule, this structure is COOH. Now CH3COOH. So there will be a hydrogen bond between oxygen of one C double bond oxygen with hydrogen, OH hydrogen, and another one here. Because of those 2 hydrogen bonds, 2 acetic acid molecules will exist as dimers. So these are the important points regarding hydrogen bond. The nature of hydrogen bond is electrostatic force of attraction. It is stronger than other van der Waals forces of attractions, but weaker than covalent bonds.